Part 1 to what a deku had shape. Now, shape is basically it allows the user to just manipulate any part of their bodies, that of a dragon. Now, the quirk only has one side effect. After a long period of use, I mean like years of use, the user will begin to take on a dragon-like form in this case, but that is not the least of the problems, since the only real drawback that the user has is just imagination. But this is basically gonna be a betrayed decorative. It's like a betrayed, but cheated on, I guess. But anyway, we start off with the current festival, the current sports festival. Now, in this case, Midoriya still does have one for all. And so Midoriya is just, he's just basically just fighting currently Todoroki. And so Midoriya, as he's fighting, begins to feel the back of his throat begin to burn. And I mean absolutely burn. It resembled a bit of Todoroki's heat whenever Midoriya got close to it. And so this was in the later stages in the fight, not the early one when Todoroki finally, began to use his fire side. And so as Todoroki's finally using his fire side, Midoriya's throat begins to burn and his limbs begin to itch. Now the reason is Midoriya took note of one thing. His arm began to feel less and less pain as the fight went on, as the fight continued to go on. Now, what I mean by this isn't that Midoriya began to get numb to the pain. It's like Midoriya's arm literally is healing. Now, as Midoriya continues to fight Todoroki, the burn in the back of his throat begins to get more. And it hurts more, it burns more. Until finally, the two go into the beam struggle. The power struggle. Todoroki, uses his flash. What was it? I don't know, but the same attack that Todoroki used in the sports festival. And so, as Todoroki is charging this up, Midoriya can't handle it anymore. And so Midoriya finally points his head to the sky, and he seems to let out a dragon-like roar. And that's when we see a bit of flame begin to shoot out from Midoriya's mouth. Midoriya quickly points it down at Todoroki, but that doesn't exactly do much as Todoroki's fire completely outclasses Midoriya's. And so Midoriya is just sent flying backwards into the stadium wall with a few broken bones. His arm, once again, being just fully healed in this case. All Might seems to be, just taken aback at the fact that Midoriya's arm is healed, and he was, just a few minutes later, just spewing fire from his mouth. All Might begins to think that Midoriya had, awakened a quirk. After all, One for All didn't exactly allow the user to shoot fire from their mouths. It wasn't exactly ordinary. But before All Might could ponder this thought any longer, Midoriya was quickly just picked up and sent off to Recovery Girl's office. And so Todoroki goes on to the next fight, and it goes the same as in canon. And that's when we time skip the classroom scene, and not exactly there. We continue to time skip until we eventually get Midoriya at Gran Torino's internship. Now, what happened at the sports festival didn't exactly happen again in this case. Midoriya tried to use it again, but it just wouldn't happen. And so Midoriya just continued the train One for All. And then in the later stages of finally, after the internship happened, Midoriya finally learns full cowling. And that is when Midoriya once again gets a pleasant surprise, as that's when the quirk begins to finally show itself in its full colors. Midoriya learned that his quirk was shaped in, well, just what I previously said. And so Midoriya learned, well, his quirk through Gran Torino. Now, Midoriya's new awakened quirk was similar to that of One for All, meaning that Midoriya had a seemingly had an energy inside him that he had to manipulate through his body, and then just imagine what the energy will transform to, allowing his body to take on the traits that he previously thought of. And once again, Midoriya learned this when he activated, well, full counting. And that's when Midoriya seemed to have changed into a seemingly, well, hey, think of a small room. Alright. Midoriya seemingly almost filled Gran Torino's house with his size. Midoriya was pleasantly surprised as he quickly turned off full counting, and that's when he began to turn back into his regular size, and he unfortunately, he fortunately still had his clothes on. Now, when Midoriya changes a part of his body, a smoke is left at the edge of the limb, right? So think of it like Elden Ring whenever you use, how can I say this, dragon magic in this case, whenever you use it in your head, just change into that and leaves a trail of smoke, right? But anyway. But Midoriya, on the other hand, finally began to control a bit, well, both of his quirks in this case. Midoriya, well, he didn't exactly use his new found quirk, well, like he used One for All. He also had to inform All Might of his newly awakened quirk and how it worked. That talk was a bit awkward, since, well, he had previously told All Might that he didn't have a quirk, and now he has a quirk, so yeah, it didn't exactly go well, but anyway. And that's when we time skip to the Stain arc. Now, as Gran Torino and Midoriya is currently sitting on a train, it quickly gets, well, intercepted by a Nomu. The Nomu is currently holding down a hero, but before it can do anything more, Gran Torino quickly kicks it in the side of its head, sending it away from the train. Midoriya quickly shifted, Midoriya quickly pulled a full cowling, and he quickly shifted the back of his back into Dragon Wings. He quickly ran to the hero and grabbed him before jumping off and flying back to where the more populated area of heroes was. Now, as Midoriya arrived there, he seemed to take in the sight of a bunch of, well, Nomus in this case. They were all over the area. As well, he saw Endeavor off to the side, currently fighting what seemed to be a buff Nomu without the wings. Midoriya quickly put the hero down to the side, as he was quickly intercepted by a Nomu, but he was luckily able to grab the side of its head before shifting his throat into into something that can finally spit fire. So Midoriya quickly aimed his mouth at the Nomu before he let loose a bunch of flames into its face, quickly roasting its brain and it falling to the ground, motionless. Midoriya yelled at Endeavor to go for the head. Endeavor quickly were pushing the high-end Nomu off him and quickly grabbing its face before sending, a bunch of flames into its head, and in the process turning a bit of his fire blue. He quickly turns around and sees the person that Ida was currently internship with. And so he asked him where Ingenium was before he shook his head, saying that he didn't know, and that the kid had ran off talking about he was going to go help more people. Midoriya's back seemed to shiver as he immediately knew that he wanted to get revenge on Stain for killing his brother. And so, Midoriya quickly, he quickly spreads his wings before flying into the sky. He pulled put a bit of one more one for all for cowling into his back, onto his wings, and began to flap even harder, creating a bit of a boom behind him. And so Midoriya just continues to flap, and he quickly heightens his senses. He hears a bit of noise as he quickly just turns around and looks into an alleyway, seeing Ida and another pro hero standing there as Stain begins to bring down his sword onto Ida's head. Midoriya, on the other hand, quickly flew down at full speed as a boom was heard behind him. Midoriya quickly grabbed onto Stain before flying him into a wall. Midoriya pulled back a fist before enhancing its size, and he quickly covered it in black scales. Midoriya sent his fist barreling towards Stain's face. Stain was luckily able to get out of Midoriya's grasp, and he quickly tried to slice at Midoriya's hand. Scale covered hand. As Stain quickly connects with Midoriya's black scales, a bit of a spark, was created. Midoriya, on the other hand, once again just tried to punch. He just tried to punch Stain with another enlarged hand. Him quickly connecting with a wall and creating a solid hole in it. He looked over at Ida before saying why he doesn't help him. Ida yelling at Midoriya, saying that he couldn't move, but before Midoriya could ask any more questions, Stain quickly sliced at his shoulder. Midoriya quickly jumped back as he spread his wings and went flying towards Stain. Stain, on the other hand, quickly licked at his sword, and as for Midoriya's body seemed to just go numb as he seemed to crash into the ground and roll a bit away. Now, Midoriya struggles to get up, and he looks up, and before he finally looks up to see Stain walking up to him, saying that he truly is a hero, putting others above himself. Stain quickly smiles before saying he'll kill him last. He quickly turns around and begins to walk towards Ida. Midoriya just grits his teeth as he forces a bit of his body to forcefully change, and his blood forced his bloodstream to just begin to pump more blood. Now this was also another benefit. Midoriya could control most of his body to the teeth, meaning Midoriya could manipulate almost anything inside his body. In this case, Midoriya can make his lungs larger. He can make his blood. He can make his heart pump more blood, and he can do a lot of other things. Midoriya forces his heart to begin to pump a bit more blood, and that's when he begins to feel his body again. Midoriya quickly connects to the fact that Stain's body, that Stain's quirk is related to blood. Midoriya quickly gets up before once again just running towards, he quickly just pushes away a bit more of his changes as he mainly changes his arms in this case, not making them bigger, just covering them in scales. Midoriya's left arm seems to be a bit more black as his veins seem to be orange. His other arm seems to be blue in color as his veins seem to be pumping what appeared to be blue energy. Now at the end of Midoriya's hands, his claws seem to be radiating a bit of lightning. And his other arm his claws on his other arm seems to be glowing a bit orange. Midoriya just forcefully uses a bit more of one for all in his arms before throwing a punch at Stain. Stain quickly feels a bit of wind, and lightning quickly hit him in the back, sending him into a wall. Now I'm gonna have to charge my phone real quick. As Stain flies into a wall, Midoriya quickly pounces on him as he begins to hit Stain in rapid succession with full cowling 8%. And so as Midoriya is currently hitting, it's just currently just wailing on Stain, Ingenious, Ida seems to quickly gain a bit of feeling in his body as he, weakly stands up. Now, he quickly stands up and begins to just try to walk towards Midoriya. But before he could, take another step, his legs seem to go numb as he seems to fall to the ground. Ida is panting, but he quickly looks up to see, see Stain quickly grabbed Midoriya's scale-covered arm and quickly began to push against it with both arms. Midoriya, on the other hand, quickly brings up his other arm to once again hit Stain. Stain quickly moves his head to the side as he quickly tries to bring up his legs. He quickly grabs at Midoriya's throat as he tries to throw him to the side. This unfortunately not working as Midoriya seems to be weighing a lot more than, what Stain saw. Stain was currently just trying with all his force to, get Midoriya off of him. Midoriya, on the other hand, not letting Stain loose. Midoriya's head seemed to begin to change as it seemed to shape into that of a dragon. Midoriya quickly just grabbed Stain's arms and began to just throw them off to the side as he quickly reached for Stain's throat, him planning to, choke the guy out. Stain, begins to feel Midoriya choking him out. He has no choice as he pulls out a small blade at his side and stabs Midoriya in his liver. Midoriya quickly just groans as he reaches for the knife as he continues to choke. As he, just chokes Stain out with his other, hand. Stain quickly pulls out the knife and licks at it. Midoriya once again just sighs as he topples onto Stain, and he seems to once again can't move his body. Midoriya begins to force his heart to pump more blood, and he, weakly tries to get back up, but unfortunately can't. Stain quickly grabs at Midoriya's neck before quickly pushing him off of him. Stain reaches up to his now, hurt neck. But before he could, continue to, rub at his neck, he was quickly kicked in the back of the head by some metal boots, knocking him clean out. So, Ida had seen that, Midoriya had been, just gone limp on top of Stain, and he used a reciprocal burst to knock Stain out. And so, I think I'm gonna end it here.